Hello, welcome to the David the Dog Trainer podcast, episode 27. Here we are. We're on number 27. We're getting through the year. It's Thursday, July 8th right now. We just heard some loud thunder outside about 4 minutes ago, but now it looks like it's very sunny, so I don't know what's happening.
That's what happened yesterday, too.
Welcome to Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, welcome. Sunny for 5 minutes, and then you get downpoured.
Yes.
And sunny again.
Doobie, what's new?
Oh, lots of things.
How was your 4th?
My 4th of July was wonderful. We hung out with some family.
You got some sunburn on your face?
Maybe. I might have.
Did I see a little?
Maybe. I don't know.
Interesting. Looks like you might.
Yeah. I don't think I've been outside. I don't know. Great.
Anyways.
Anyway. No, my 4th of July was good. Saw family, ate a lot of food. We didn't actually go see the fireworks.
We did not either.
No?
No.
Damn. I feel so unpatriotic.
Kate worked at the hospital until like 3 and had just a garbage day there. Obviously, the emergency room from, 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock on the 4th of July is not the place you want to be.
No.
So.
Bunch of drunk people with explosives is just never a good time. Did you see that that hockey player died in Columbus?
What?
He was, like the Capitals? Is that their hockey team? It's like a pro hockey team.
I don't know what they're called.
Well,
Something like that.
Yeah, their goalie died because
Really?
Yeah, someone was. So supposedly, the story is they were in a hot tub, and one of their dudes that he was at the house with that was taking one of those mortar tubes.
Oh, Jesus.
And was just shooting it at the hot tub.
What?
And they were all trying to get out, and the second one hit him in the chest.
Oh, my gosh.
Floated, yeah. But I feel like the real story is he was a goalie, and he was like, I can get that, I can block that.
What?
And then it exploded on him, But, yeah, I guess it killed him pretty much instantly.
That's insane. I guess I wouldn't have realized, how deadly that would be. But it is. It's an explosive. I mean, it's a fairly large one as well.
Yeah, I guess it hit him and then exploded. So the concussive power just scrambled his insides, basically.
That's insane.
Yeah, but on a lighter note.
Yeah, I was going to say, starting off real heavy there.
Yeah, I was at Aaliyah last night for a long time because he was just getting his menu together because the brand new menu comes out today. So, and it's delicious, so good. You need to go. I'm telling you.
We'll go. We'll make it happen.
Okay. And then tomorrow I have Haunted House Cafe.
Haunted House Bar.
Yep.
Very excited.
I'm very excited to meet Super Chef.
Super Chef.
Yes, Super Chef.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think I still, even that clip didn't show anything as far as what the inside looks like. So I'm very curious to see. Are you just doing the food photography, or are you taking actual photos of the place?
I think I'm just doing the food, but if he gives me a chance, I'll
sneak a shot or two.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, it looked nice when I was in there. My friend Isaiah did all the new mural work and stuff, and it's like a mishmash of old horror movies and horror characters all over the walls and stuff. So
sounds fun.
Yeah, you went in there. You've been into the Cleveland Heights Mill before,
multiple times.
Yeah, so they walled up. You know how it used to be the big round, square bar.
Yep.
Yeah, on the one side they put a wall up, so the bar's only on one side now, and then it's just tables and stuff back where you used to go to the bathrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
So they added more tables and such. So it was really weird for me to be in there because I managed that space for so long.
Yeah.
It makes me just want to go in the basement and be like, let me see, what have you done with the dungeons down there? Because there's just a labyrinth of weird spots and spaces in there because it used to be the old Peabodys. So the stage used to be in the basement.
I always forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's what that used to be.
Yep.
Yeah, I forgot. It was like a multi-floor thing. You know what's crazy is Scott Landry, our landlord at Miracle, used to run that place.
Really?
Yeah. or used to be like a part owner of it, or used to run it, or something like that. He had some sort of like big connection to that place.
Yeah.
Like that when it was Peabody's
When it was
there.
that
you
one.
know, when it was that one.
Because that was when it was Peabody's Down Under.
Yeah.
Because it was literally it was a pit.
Yeah.
And you look down at the bands, which is so weird to me.
Isn't it crazy that that place was like 3 different places? Peabody's.
Yeah.
Like it was in the flats for a little bit,
Yep.
and it was
Then that
downtown, obviously, and then
Yeah.
Cleveland Heights and stuff.
Yeah.
What a place, man.
No, and it just ended.
I've still never had better experiences than playing there. Like my early band days, like I remember my first shows that we ever played was get ready for this, see if this triggers anything in you.
Okay.
Gorilla Productions presents Battle of the Bands.
Yeah. He surprisingly enough
Dan Call.
Yeah, Dan Cole. He tried to expand the Guerrilla Productions thing to other cities. So I played a Guerrilla Productions thing in Louisville. And I remember the grandiose.
Is he still around?
No, not in the music scene. I'm sure he got laughed out
Yeah.
of here, but
Man, what a
dude,
joke.
I just remember all the grandiose things if you win the Battle of the Bands.
Dude, we won the Battle of the Bands twice.
Yeah.
First off, first place winner of Guerrilla Productions Battle of the Bands 2 times in a row, Naming the Fallen.
All right. And what?
Dude, the amount of money that I handed over to that guy as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Like I'd be 15 years old. We'd sell 300 fucking tickets to the Battle of the Bands. I'd be handing this guy over like $3,000 cash. Like, here you go, buddy. I hand you like $200 back or something.
Yeah. And then
What a freaking joke. Dude, I remember him telling us, he's like, here's what's going to happen. You guys are going to play the Battle of the Bands. If you win it, you'll go on to the finals, which is the best of the best bands. If you win that one, he's like, you guys are set. He's like, we're going to give you a headlining show. He's like, we're going to book you 3 support shows somewhere else, and that'll open you guys up to being able to win studio time at Lava Room Recordings, which is the studio that 9 Inch Nails records out of, and this and that. And first off, the studio time that you won wasn't even enough to record one song in, because you know the way those places work. They're like, oh, let's do as little as possible for these 8 hours of time. And then they're like, oh, you get about 8 hours more time. That's $100 an hour for this to finish this one single song. Just a freaking mess. What a joke that was.
Dude, I've been into Lava Room before. Have you ever been in there?
We recorded there.
You did.
Yeah, we won the studio.
So you actually
and
did
we
it.
recorded there. Yeah.
It wasn't like anything special.
No, it wasn't.
You
Also,
know?
the quality was trash.
Yeah.
Of the recording that came out. It was not good.
Do you remember Brian White?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was he played like bass or guitar for Salt the Moon. Or
A little
for
bit. In Salt the Moon,
yeah.
Fuck that guy. Because we recorded with him the Gateway Complex.
He was later on. So like
Yeah.
they had like their head engineers there, and then Brian
yeah.
White started, I think it was Studio C or something
Yeah.
like that, because they had 2 studios. They had their
Yep.
analog studio and then their digital studio in there.
Yep.
And then they had that side one that
Yep.
Brian White started. Yeah, he was their guitar player, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I paid him for a whole EP, and then we got one song, and then he would never contact me again.
Yeah.
And then years later, I saw him come into Melt, and I was working, but I wanted to just like ream that motherfucker. Like, hey man, you owe me like $1,500.
Yeah.
Please. But yeah, the Battle of the Bands, it was such a joke. And it's funny that we all look at it now and we're like, what were we thinking? We should have known.
15 years old.
I know.
We had Dan Call, who would just talk 9,000 miles a minute,
Yeah.
spitting in your ear about how you're going to be the next hot thing. And what do we know? Is I remember being in high school, right? And I remember going around my high school being like, I'm playing in the Battle of the Bands, right? And everybody was like, "Whoa, how'd you land? That's so cool. We want to go." That's why we sold so many fucking tickets for it. I mean, literally, I think we sold 300 tickets for both of those Battle of the Bands. You know how hard that is?
It's fucking
It's hard.
difficult. Yeah. For like a bunch of nobody, little bands.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. And Yeah, you said you got like $200.
Like $200.
I remember how that split was too. Like,
Yeah.
after 50 tickets, you'll get $1 back or whatever.
Yeah, $1 per ticket. And then after 100, you'll get $2 a ticket or something. And I just remember him sitting there. You'd have to sit in the little office behind the bar at Peabody's, or you'd have to go upstairs into the offices. And you'd sit there and you'd just be counting out the money, and then look at you and be like, "You guys are $20 short."
Yeah, like what? Come on, man.
What do you mean we're $20 short?
We'll just have to take it out of your cut.
Yeah. And I also remember, what was it? If they gave you, say, 500 tickets, if you didn't return all like 400 of them, like any of them that were missing, it's like you didn't have to pay for those.
Fuck you.
What
man.
a scummy industry that was.
So scummy, dude. I wonder where that man's at in life now.
Yeah.
Scamming somebody else.
Man.
He's probably in an MLM. That's basically what that was anyway.
We're gonna have to one day do like a music specific podcast where we just share ridiculous stories of things that have happened throughout our music careers. So for everybody that doesn't know, we talked about this like I think podcast episode 1. Josh and I virtually know each other because of the Cleveland music scene. Josh and I were both in what I would consider to be very successful local bands, or regional bands, or whatever you would like to call them, and we basically spent a large majority of our high school and on life until like basically where we're at right now pursuing music professionally.
Yeah.
Great idea, right?
It was wonderful.
Great idea. Do you ever also look at some of like your dreams and ambitions you had of like, I'm just going to live out of this van for 365 days out of the year?
Boy.
Just travel around.
Yes.
That was the dream. You know what I mean? Because like,
dream.
Like I think nobody was delusional enough that they thought that they were going to really hit a point where it's like, we're going to be in tour buses and we're going to be sleeping in a hotel every single night and this and that. It was like, no, man, we'll just get paid enough so we could stop at McDonald's once a day. Get our McDouble from the dollar menu.
Yeah.
And just, pee in a cup if you're like, driving down the highway, for 17 hours and stuck in traffic. And like, maybe the venue will have a shower we could take a shower at.
Especially like when I first started. I mean, it was like virtually impossible to make money.
Josh, what was your first tour you ever went on? What was the first one?
First one was with Clarity, actually. And we did this shitty run with I guess I won't name drop her, but she sucks. And she stole money because I used her again to book some stuff with Demolisher, and she stole money from us. But anyway, she booked us. I should have known because she booked us like 3 shows out in like New York.
Yeah.
And like the first show was in New Jersey, and then we were going to go to New York. And it's supposed to be with Float Face Down, if you remember that band.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah. We got there, and there was nobody there. Like, at all.
Like
there was no other
just,
bands.
Like, closed.
Yeah, the venue was closed, and we're calling her like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And then I messaged like one of the guys from Float Face Down. I was like, "Hey, are you guys like playing the show?" And they're like, "No, we told them we couldn't do that like a month ago." It's like,
thanks.
Cool. Yeah. So we drove all the way to New Jersey for nothing, and then we had to stay at her house. And then Alex Morales, you remember? Yeah, Alex.
I trained his Boston Terrier.
Yeah,
him and Cheryl or Chelsea, or I forgot what his wife's name is.
Cheryl.
Yeah, that's it. I trained their Boston Terrier a long time ago.
And he was with us. And then I remember I was like, "Listen, we're passing New York City. Let's just go to New York City, right?" Mm-hmm. But where we went, it's like you go outside, like you're in like Trenton, I think, New Jersey, and then you take a train over to New York, because I was like, I am not taking the van and trailer into New York City. There's no way.
I've done that enough times.
Yeah. I was like, fuck that. So we're going to park it here and go down. Well, it just snowed. So all the side parking, like street parking, people were on these like mounds of snow and like in the middle of the road. And I'm trying to not hit those. And then people are going like 50 miles an hour. So I'm like freaking out because I'm the one driving. And then for some reason, Alex and the drummer got like in this argument. And they were like, fuck you. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, because I was like, I'm trying to drive. And then we get there, and then Alex is like, no, fuck these guys. I'm taking a train home. And he's like going to get a train, and I'm like stressing out. I'm like trying to keep everyone together and not like kill each other. And then we finally get to New York, and it was fine. But it was like this whole thing. And I was just like, what am I doing with my life? All these idiots are yelling at each other. I'm about to run somebody over. Like, yeah, it was not a good first tour. We definitely were in the hole like $1,000 at the end of the day.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
My first one I ever did was with, do you know Come Wind?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, they're out of New Philadelphia, Ohio. Phenomenal freaking band, dude.
Yeah.
Like they're like a new, no, I don't even know how I would describe it. Like an indie pop Christian rock band. Yeah. But like in the best way of it, right? Like they put out phenomenal music, unbelievably talented musicians, like the nicest people you'd ever meet in your life.
Yep.
And they took us out on our first tour. I was still in high school at the time. I think I was a senior at this point. It was 3 days.
Okay.
And it was just all through Pennsylvania. We played at 3 different places in Pennsylvania and Southern Ohio. And I just remember that one specifically because it still has to this date one of the most memorable shows I ever played, which was called Canapalooza was the name of the show. It was a can drive event that was in Southern Ohio, like 5.5 hours south, like kind of in between Cincinnati and Pennsylvania. And I just remember it because it was like 5 bands. It was us, Come Wind, this band, The Orphan the Poet, who went on to be relatively successful as well, and fucking 21 Pilots.
Wow.
And 21 Pilots, this was right after they released their CD Regional at best. This is when they started getting really popular for a little bit there, but still nobody really knew who they were. Yeah. They played in a school gym in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Ohio, in front of probably 25 people.
Yeah.
And it was everything you could have ever imagined it to be.
Yeah.
It was still like unbelievably awesome.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But that was a sweet show. We played at, it was like a really dumpy venue.
Yeah.
It was a dive bar church like place. Like it wasn't a dive bar, but like it was like a dive bar room looking place that they converted into a church that we played at. Oh, perfect. And then it was this school gym. And I just remember it being the most ridiculous 3 days of my life. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. We didn't even have a van, so we drove in 2 separate cars. I drove my Pontiac Vibe, which is just a shitty little hatchback car with a roof rack mounted thing full of drum hardware and like stuff like that. And like all of our guitar stuff in the back. And then Ian, our drummer at the time, drove his Mazda 5, which was like basically a minivan just packed full of stuff. And we just hit the road. And I was like, this is the life. This is what we're doing.
Hell yeah.
It was the best. Okay, second question.
Yeah.
Best show you ever played, worst show you ever played?
Oh my God, dude. Oh. I think the best show I ever played was Voltage Lounge in Philadelphia because those people are crazy. It's like it's about the size of the, I don't know. It's kind of like the main floor is the size of like the Foundry. Mm-hmm. It's like the stage is kind of small and it's like a small area, but then they have like a balcony thing. And I remember people were just like throwing the trash cans from up top down onto the people.
I think you told me about this.
Yeah, and they have like a garage door like that opens, and they have like a little patio when they're just like a regular like bar, you know. And they close that, and then they put like this wire, like metal, like sheet down, and then these people were just. I watched this guy literally run and spear the fucking metal. He was just like, and I was like, what is happening?
What are you doing?
Yeah, what is wrong with you people? I mean, they went crazy for us. Like it was the most violence I've ever seen at a show, which. In metal, we like...
This is good.
Yeah, this is good. When people are getting in fights and are hitting each other, you like that. It's the only appropriate time. But anyway, yeah. And then, I don't know, the worst... I've had a lot of bad ones.
I'm trying to like in my head, because I've had some real fucking horrible shows
Yeah,
before.
that's
But
what
I'm trying to look at them as like pre being in a somewhat established band, and post being in a somewhat established band. Because there were some shows I played like in between my like high school band and in between like before Envoy turned into like with Maddie and stuff like that, where we just had some trash shows. Like one in particular, I think was at Kent at JB's Lounge downstairs at Kent, which first off, worst venue you could ever play at.
Yeah.
Like it's just like
You're greeted with stairs
dark
immediately.
and there's stairs all the way down. You can't see anything. Worst sound system to ever freaking exist. There's like a weird like pillars all throughout the stage where you like basically get trapped behind. Nobody can even see you or anything. And there's basically only one vantage point of the stage, and it's like dead center. If you're not dead center, you don't see anything.
No.
And I remember literally we were playing, and this is when it was Envoy, but when we had like a guy singer and a totally different band and stuff. And I remember last song, I just turned my amp off, threw my guitar down, just walked off the stage. And they finished playing the song. And it's just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
I was so mad.
Yeah, that's actually one of my worst, for sure. It was with Legend and Dr. Acula.
Oh, nice.
And there was 3 people. And they were so mad because they'd just gotten back from like a European tour.
Yeah.
And this was like the first show
Oh, God, I'd be
to
pissed.
take them back home. Yeah. Could you imagine probably just like killing it in Europe, and then you come back to your home country and there's 3 fucking people?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that one. Or there used to be this place in Elyria, not East Carlisle, but it was like called the Church or something.
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar.
Yeah, that was a terrible show too.
Yeah.
Like we got there and just nobody promoted it. I mean, I think the worst shows I've ever had were probably in Ohio.
Yeah.
And then some of the best were here as well. So it just depended on who was putting the show on usually.
Yeah, I think the problem was so many people wanted to be booking agents like in that era,
dude,
So
everybody.
everybody would put on a show, and then there would be these weekends where there'd be like 17 shows going on, and unless it was the big one, like nobody was at it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. I think so. We had a similar one where it was an afternoon show in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the venue was, but we had to drive from Massachusetts to Rhode Island for this afternoon show. It was on a Thursday or a Friday, and it was at like 12 o'clock. And we get there, and it's in this like converted strip club, or like it was like a strip club part-time venue part-time or something like that.
Yeah.
So the whole stage is just mirrors around, and like it's just weird vibe. We play same deal. And we find out also it was like a hardcore show or something like that. But not like even good. Like it was like shitty metalcore bands basically we were playing with the whole time.
Yeah.
So nobody wanted anything to do with us.
Yeah.
So we get on, we played like, and I think what also always pissed me off when we were playing out and about is when we'd go and they'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, you guys have a 17-minute set or something. It's like, we got like 25, 30 minutes of material we're getting ready to play. And it's like, okay, cool. We got to cut like half our set.
Yeah, like here's 3 songs. Cool, thanks.
And that show wound up turning into one of the best ones because the people we were playing with out in Massachusetts, we made really great friends with this family out there who hosted a bunch of shows and stuff. But they drove out because it was only like a 45-minute drive for them or something. They drove out to it, and afterwards, their drummer, who was in like a hardcore band from Boston, was up there, and he's like, we're playing a show tonight, like over at the venue you guys just played at yesterday. He's like, it's going to be like a hardcore show. He's like, but everybody that's going to be at it is like the coolest people ever. He's like, do you guys want to come out and play? And we're like, yeah. So
why not?
We packed all our shit up. We drove right back to the venue that we just came from. We get there. He wasn't kidding when he said hardcore. It was like it felt like I was watching like Have Heart play like 15 times in a row. Like it was legit like hardcore bands, And then we get on and we play, and this venue was sweet, right? And all these kids were like hype for it, dude. Because we used to play The Kill by 30 Seconds to Mars. Like that was like one of our cover songs we had in our set. We played that song, and like all these kids were like jumping on top of each other, like trying to get at Maddie, like singing it and stuff. It was like the coolest, Just like what a turnaround,
All right, this is way better than yesterday. That's awesome.
Kids just finished like, they're all like hardcore dancing and stuff. They're like, break me down.
Oh man, I think one of the best moments was when we were in Houston. I can't remember the name of the venue now, but their catering was barbecue.
Ooh.
Yeah,
That was always a big thing too, was when you went somewhere and they had like bomb food.
yeah. And I was like, we went into the little green room. They're like, oh, here's they said we need to cater you. Like, here you go. And like, you know, it's like a bunch of styrofoam. I was like,
Yeah.
oh great, what are we getting, like cheese sandwiches or something? And I opened it up,
Ribs.
yeah,
Wings.
it was, dude. I was like, what is happening? I was just like, I love this place. If we ever tour back in Texas, we have to come here. It was the best.
The food was the best part. I remember we played in this venue in Matamoros, Pennsylvania, and it was at this like little, it was called like the I don't know, like the Tavern Grill or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a local little restaurant. They had a 5 set of stairs that went up onto like their seating area, and they just moved all the tables aside and just made it a stage at night.
Heck yeah.
Was the best. But anyways, the promoter for that was like the general manager at the Perkins around the corner. So anytime we came to town, he was like, you guys can go to Perkins. He's like, and get whatever you want. So we would go to Perkins and just smash. We would get so much freaking food. No charge.
Yeah.
Hooked it up. The waitresses and everything at that like restaurant and stuff, like it was just a local place. And Matamoros, Pennsylvania is like about as far east as you can get.
Okay.
And you're like in the mountains. Like you look around you, it's just mountains everywhere. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But it's a small little town, you know,
Yeah.
population is probably like nothing.
Yeah.
And I think I was like probably like 18 or 19 at the time. They're like serving you blue
Yeah.
moons and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
like-
here you go, have fun.
Okay.
You know, like, it's like, fuck yeah.
Actually, one more is Roswell. We played Roswell, and that was the strangest time I've ever had in my life.
Where's Roswell?
New Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah,
we never really went that way.
Yeah, where all the aliens are.
Oh,
Yeah, and we went to the like alien like museum they
a
have
little
there.
exhibit there.
Yeah, it was nice. But then we went to the show, and it was like a really bad show. There's only like probably like 20 people that came because Roswell is a really small town already. So it was like kind of weird that we were
That's
there.
why there's aliens there.
Yeah, but all the people,
Lots of room to hide.
all 20 of them, like were very weird. Like they came up like after the show, and they're like, "You played a really good set," and I'm like, "Thanks." And they were like from all different walks of life. I was like, okay, these guys have been abducted. There's some weird shit going on. I was like, we got to get out of here. So we booked it after that.
You know, one of the other really interesting things about like, and again, when I say touring, like we were very young as a band, right? You did a lot more touring than I did, right? So we would go out for at the most, I think, 2 weeks, you know? But like the weirdest part about it was like some of the things that are acceptable in the touring world from the standpoint of like, you literally would just like start talking to somebody like after your show and like basically just like fingers crossed hope they would ask if you would like come and stay at their house, right? And not in like a creepy way, just in like a like you guys can sleep on our couch kind of.
Yeah. Please.
Because literally, like you figure, like when you're out for a week or 2 weeks, like a majority of that time, you're sleeping in your van.
Oh, yeah.
In a Walmart parking lot.
Yep.
And we had a little camper grill that I would bring with us. I had a little propane tank. We'd walk into Walmart and we'd get some breakfast sausages or something.
Yep.
And every morning I'd sit there and I'd whip up some fucking sausages for us.
Yeah.
You know? And you would hope somebody would say, hey, we got a couch you guys can sleep on if you want. And then you would really, really hope that they were like, there's a shower you can use also.
Yeah. Oh, dude. I think, honestly, Logan, Idaho. It's either Logan, Idaho or Logan, Utah. I can't remember. It's over there somewhere by Salt Lake City. And I know that's Utah, but I don't remember. But all I remember was, like, I fell asleep. And then I woke up and we were like in the middle of this like wooded area. It was like this forest mountainy area. And then I was like, are we like close? And they're like, yeah, it's supposed to be like 3 minutes from here. I'm like, I don't know about that. And then all of a sudden we just came over this mountain, and then it's this little town in this valley surrounded by mountains and forest. And then we stayed at the Walmart parking
Yeah.
lot there.
Yeah,
and the Walmart has this giant mountain in the back
Yeah.
right behind it. And I was
Dude,
just
there's
like,
some really. It's crazy that also, like, when you're touring, I feel like as an entry touring band, you're playing in the smallest, weirdest towns you would have never heard of ever before.
Exactly.
And the cool thing was, dude, the people out there were so grateful to have bands come to them because
Yeah.
big bands weren't going to those places. They
not
would
at
have
all.
to travel for them. So they were super into, like, local music.
yeah. Because they'd be like, well, we usually have to go like an hour to see a show or whatever,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, here we are.
Here
So-
we are.
Yeah, but
And,
that-
you would, the cool thing is, like, you would kill it extra hard for them.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was this one, we played at, like, a VFW hall somewhere in, like, Indiana or something like that, I remember.
Yeah.
And same deal, middle of nowhere. We go, we play, and there was like 30 kids there, and like maybe 20 of them actually came out specifically to see us.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yep.
it's like one of those things where you start getting into when these people see like show pops up, right? Like, boom, End Voice playing this place, you know, whatever. They go in and they're like, I'm gonna look up this band, I'm gonna start listening to
Yeah.
this band, and then they have like more of a passion for that like kind of music. You
Yeah.
know? It's really awesome.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of it, when you say it that way too, it's like, okay, so the show that I said in Philadelphia was on the same tour as that Logan, Utah show, and you know, Philadelphia, there was like 300 people. They get shows all the time. Like you could tell, a lot of them are like kind of just desensitized. Like, well, we'll see more shows in the next day or 2 days.
Yeah.
And then Logan, yeah, there was like 25 people, but
Yeah.
every single one of those people went crazy.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
were
yeah,
just
yeah.
like so excited.
You know, it's an interesting point here, and then we'll start correlating this back to dog training, obviously.
Sorry, everyone.
Listen, I don't care.
Yeah.
This is the David the
This
Dog
is
Trainer
David
podcast.
the Dog
This is
Trainer.
my show, guys. Sorry. That's funny. I've never said that before. This is my show. I'll talk about what the fuck I want to talk about on it. I want to talk about music right now.
Yeah. Listen here.
So the crazy thing is, you mentioned, you know, whatever, a couple minutes ago about how, you know, Dr. Acula and the show at JB's, and there's only like 3 people there,
Yeah.
right? I remember hearing about, going back to 21 Pilots here for a minute, I remember hearing about like when they first started getting big and stuff, and one of the things they would do is they would play at every small city in like the southern Ohio area that they can find, any weird venue, VFW halls, this, that, and they would just go, and there would be like 5 to 10 people at those shows, and they would just freaking knock it the fuck out of the park.
Yeah.
Right? Because here's the thing, right? How many experiences do you have of going to see a band that you like where nobody was there, and it was like you and like 20 other people, and because it was so intimate, it was like the best experience you could have ever had?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. For sure.
2 I can think of in particular. You remember Headliners in Toledo?
Yeah.
Fairly big venue.
Yeah.
Right? I saw Under Oath there one time the day after Warped Tour. So
Really?
everybody's burnt out on shows.
Yeah.
The day after Warped Tour, probably 50 people in that entire place. Right?
Yeah.
And this was Under Oath at their prime. Right? Mm-hmm. And I saw Circa Survive there. Same deal. Like 50 to 100 people.
Yeah.
Same deal. Dead shows like a Wednesday afternoon or something
Yeah.
like that, you know? And those 2 shows always stick out to me as like 2 of the best shows that I've ever went to go see, because it was so intimate and it was a band I really liked, and because they still just freaking killed it.
Yeah.
You know? Then you look at us looking at it from a band when you go to some of these small venues and stuff like that, and you're playing in front of 10 people and you're just pissed, right? And you play a fucking sloppy set, you don't give it your all, and you kind of half-ass it and stuff like that, because you're playing the micro game. I want every show to be the big show, as opposed to
Yeah.
playing the long game, and this is where we
Yeah.
start to spin this back into business and dog training and everything like that,
Yeah.
where if you play the long game and you still make sure, you know, we talked about this 2 podcasts ago in your case, right? If you have only 3 clients, right, and you're pissed because it's like, I want to be huge, I want all these people reaching out to me, I want higher demand, I want to be selective of the people that I can pick and this
Yeah.
and that. If you just really take care of those 3 people, you're going to see exponential growth
Yeah.
from that every single time, because those 3 people are going to tell all these other people.
Mm-hmm.
The next time you go to that venue, if you're a musician, if you played and knocked it out of the park for those 3 people, you better believe those 3 people are going to come, and you better believe those 3 people are probably going to bring 2 friends with them.
Yep.
And then it just compounds.
Yes.
The compound effect.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah. You're 100% correct.
What is one lesson you learned from your times as a musician that you now carry with you to the business world and pursuing your current goals and ambitions?
Money management.
That's a good one.
100%.
That's a very good one.
Yeah. I mean, especially with Demolisher, it was like, okay, we're making this much each night. Mm-hmm. I have to keep inventory on all our merchandise. Got to keep records of all the CDs we sell. I have to dispense out the $15 for each person.
The per diem.
Yeah, the per diem. Here you go, guys. Here's
Get
enough.
yourself something nice.
Yeah. go buy a sandwich, But doing that means when we came home, like I could be like, okay, here's $1,200 for you, and we could divvy it up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that was something I had to learn quickly. Like, and then like reordering merch while we were out, and like making sure we had the money for that, and making sure we had gas money, and so I think that was definitely the biggest takeaway. That and marketing myself.
Yeah.
Knowing how much social media is important to me.
Yeah. We never hit a point where the financial thing was really important for us because, like I said, like we were we got popular when we were really young,
Mm-hmm.
So we were still in high school. We were still living with our parents, we weren't going out for like months on end. So we didn't need
Mm-hmm.
to we could have $200 that would last us, the entire tour that we would just bring from home because we all had jobs and stuff like that. So we didn't really do like a per diem or anything like that. We kept 100% of the money that we made off merchandise and this and that directly in the band. But because of that, we were able to self-fund everything, right? Like our recordings that we did, our mixing and mastering that we did. We bought a $900 trailer, paid cash for it because we needed one. We bought a van, we were able to go out and buy all these things because we didn't pay ourselves anything. Right? Yeah. And that was a really cool feeling, but that was something that wasn't a sustainable reality for us had we hit that point where we were going to be doing like bigger and better things at that point. I think for me, throughout my entire course of being in music, I learned a lot about facing adversity past what you would normally think of like roughing it and like all this kind of stuff. Like those were important skills to like understand kind of the grind of like pursuing your passion and stuff. Yeah. But from the standpoint of, I realized at a very, very young age that not everybody was equipped to handle adversity and to be able to lead through it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying I did a great job with it by any means, but when we faced any sort of hardship as a band, whether it was we ran into a couple situations where same deal, you drive out to a city, nobody's there, you don't know what's going on, you drove to the wrong venue, you run into the situation where one of your members is having a mental breakdown over something, and you got to figure out how you're going to coach through that. Mm-hmm. Run into situations where our band evolved as far as members and stuff numerous times, transitioning to different members, making sure that if you lose your drummer, it doesn't totally set you back or this or that. Like I realized that somebody needed to step in and to be able to handle and lead through those situations, right? And when you're in a band, and I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about this, but when you're in a band, there's not this spoken conversation of like, I'm the manager of the band kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like there's not the spoken conversation of like, I'm the person that's going to make sure everything kind of stays in order and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. It just kind of happens. Yeah. And it does. Somebody just kind of steps up and does that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the interesting thing to learn from my end is how to continue to make sure that those bumps in the road that we hit didn't totally derail us. Yeah.
I think it was really difficult for me too because like coming in Demolisher, like that wasn't my band, you know?
Yeah,
I was like
sure.
the new guy, but I was literally the reason why everything that happened when we were all together happened. Mm-hmm. Because like Marty's the original like guy. He's the one that created the band, but he was like also going through like school to become a lawyer. You know, so he was basically broke. Like he didn't have time for a job because he's literally a full-time student, and then he didn't have time to like do anything else. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do this, like I'm going to get this for us, can you do that? He's like, yeah, I could take time off for whatever, you know, we needed. I was like, okay. So I'm the one that got the van, I'm the one that got the trailer again. And then it's always been like that though through all my bands, actually, because I was just always the one that was so focused on making it. I was like, this is what I fucking want to do, you know? So I think I was the one that always had the most drive to get shit done, because I was like, especially when I got into Demolisher, I mean, that was the reason I got into Demolishers, because Clarity was kind of like taking a break because our drummer Ryan went to college to be an astro engineer or whatever, like aero engineer or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to have to like take a little bit like of a step back. And he was going to Cincinnati. He was like going to be really far away. And I was like, I'm fucking 25, man. Like I need to, if I'm going to do this, I have to do it now. Yeah. So I found someone that was going to be able to do that. Unfortunately, it sucks, but
that's the way it works, though.
That is the way it works.
Same deal. That was what happened with us. Is our drummer told us he was leaving and moving to Colorado like a month before our longest tour we were about to go on was. Yeah, you know. And same deal. That was a huge deal, right? Yeah. Like he's gone. Yeah. Right. And same deal. We had to kind of find somebody that was going to be able to step in, have availability for that, was going to be talented enough to learn everything in a timely enough fashion. Yeah. You know, like, and we went through 3 individual sets of shows where we had to get different drummers for, right? Yeah. We had to figure that out and coordinate that, where we had this kid, Matt, come and do that tour with us. It was just over 2 weeks. Then we had, are you familiar with Cody Ash? Do you know Cody Ash?
Yes. Yeah, he was...
What was that band? Skylar?
Yeah, Skylar.
Yeah, yeah. Dude. Beast of a drummer. Dude is a monster, right? But we did a tour with Artifacts Pareo and the Orphan the Poet for a little bit, and Cody was filling in for Artifacts because their drummer was like out like having back surgery or something like that. Yeah. We saw him. He's a beast. Made good friends with him. We were like, hey, we're playing. You know what it was? We were playing the Gay Games 9 in Cleveland, right, when that was going on. We're like, yo, we got this big show coming up. We don't have a drummer for you. You want to come up and fill in for it? Seiler was getting ready to like leave for a tour. They were driving through Cleveland for it, so we coordinated where they came into town a day early to practice with us, play the set, knocked it out of the park, whatever. Yeah. Then we had to get somebody else to come fill in for like 2 hometown shows we had then right after that. It was, you know, it's one of those things where you learn to just adjust and like bob and weave and figure out like the adversities. And it's so interesting, you know, like you don't really realize until you're in a position like that where, like, you know, in most companies there's established leadership where whether you like the person or not, there's somebody that's making the decisions. Yeah. Right? A band is such a weird situation because you could really see firsthand how like a leadership vacuum works or a power vacuum works. Like when there is a lack of that, like it's going to get filled. Somebody's going to get sucked into that role, right? Yeah. And you could zoom out big time macro on that and like understand like some of the issues going on in the world and this and that, like how that all correlates to it, you know?
Yeah, just this little band.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, and it, you know, it sucks because like when you're in that position, you basically are usually sacrificing a lot of your own, you know, materialistic values and your money to make this thing happen. And and that's what was happening.
You learn to sacrifice for the bigger picture. Yeah. Big time. 100%.
Yeah. And that's where the big problem was, is like, okay, there's one or... Jesus.
I know. It's wild out there.
It was just sunny.
It's wild out there.
See? Cleveland weather. But, yeah, it's like one or 2 people out of the 5 people are like giving it all, you know, and
Yeah.
it was really tough because Cameron, you know, Cameron Perry, yeah, he was our bass player at the time, which I got him into the band, and I got our drummer Bernie into the band.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway,
Whatever.
he was leaving because he was going to join My Enemies and I, which was like a good thing for him at the time
Yeah,
because
they
were
wound up getting pretty big, I think.
pretty decently big, and they were touring constantly. And I think he saw what I was seeing, that they weren't pulling their weight, and he was like, "We're the only two like
Sure.
really doing anything." So he left, and then I was like, "Oh boy."
Yeah.
And then we got in some arguments, and then that was the end of it.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting when you hit that point where, like, also, like, you yourself stops being motivated to continue pushing through, right?
Yeah.
We saw similar things with Envoy when we had the issues with when Maddie basically left the band for 5 months, right? And, you know, we were in and out of drummers for a little bit, and you hit a point where it's just like you find something else that piques your interest, right? And then you pursue that, right? And for me, that was dogs, right? That's where dogs came into the mix was, you know, I was that person that was really trying to keep everything together and glue everything together, and everybody else just kind of I don't want to say everybody else because, you know, Steve is still, honestly, is Steve and Maddie now at this point, but they're still killing it right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But you know, like everything at that time, like nobody was caring anymore. You know? So I found dogs, right? I started getting involved in I got my first dog, and I started getting involved with working with her and finding other trainers and stuff. And all of that focus and energy that went to that just shifted. And it just turned, and it went towards this.
Yeah.
You know?
And see, my problem was I didn't have that. When it ended, I had like no idea what the fuck I was going to do.
Sure.
I was like, well, that ended very abruptly.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just going to be general manager at a restaurant for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I quickly understood that was not what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then, thankfully, I fell into the right people to get into the photography stuff and everything. And, I mean, I think just for me personally, like how I work is just I need a creative outlet type of situation.
Sure.
And this is really taken over that weird fire that I had for music, you know, which I still have that. Like, I do want to put out more music some point in my life, but thankfully there's something to fill that void. And that was the big thing, because, like, you know, we were going to do whatever it took to make it.
Yeah.
Since I was like 13.
Yeah.
Till I was like 27. And then all of a sudden, well, that's not going to happen anymore. And I need to look at this like in a realistic light and not just be like, I want to eat cheese sandwiches for 35 days on tour and sleep in a van, you know?
Yeah.
And so I guess that was a tough thing to like readjust my goals and views in life.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do have to do that.
You know what's interesting, though, is getting back to the adversity, right? And, like, some people can handle that. Some people can't handle that, right? Because there are plenty of people that will cripple them, and it'll cause them to do nothing then, right? And maybe you may not know exactly what you want to do after something like that, but if you learn to face that struggle, and even in my case, like, we faced all the adversities, and I learned how to work through that kind of stuff from an internal band level on fixing issues and resolving problems and being strategic about how are we going to get this song out or get this album recorded or get the funds for this or whatever it may be, right? You learn how to also face the adversity of like realizing this is no longer what I want to do right now, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to take those problem-solving skills that I learned through this, and I'm going to implement them into this to figure that out.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it was a struggle there, because I definitely like had a year or two, you know, 27, 28, and I was just like, fuck, dude, you know?
Sure.
And I was just running around in circles, just going to live in Florida for a little bit, live in Philly for a little bit, just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I mean, even until last year, you know, like we've talked about this before, but I was doing anything and everything with my camera, not really knowing what direction I wanted until last year.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the adversity you were talking about. Like, I was trying pretty much anything and everything that I could do in the film and photography industry, you know, besides moving to LA and becoming a grip on some TV show or something. But yeah, that's not what I wanted to do.
No
but
thanks.
yeah, I found my passion with food and portraits and stuff. So
Yeah.
here I am. Here we are.
Here we are. All right, guys. So now that we're done talking about all sorts of other things non-dog related for the last hour, we're going to
Yes.
get into some dog related things
Okay.
to make the dog people happy.
There we go.
See if we can come up with some clips for the miracle page.
Yeah.
All right. So what I want to do here is we're going to get into a couple different questions we got here. And then in addition to that, we are going to probably get into the next chapter of The Art of Raising a Puppy here. So on the miracle page here, we made a post the other day just looking for some additional questions and stuff to cover in kind of future clips and stuff. We got 3 good ones here I'm going to burn through. And then in addition to that, I got a message the other day from a client. We're going to start with the message. So I got a message from somebody. It was basically a video of some sort of dog trainer somewhere working on a recall with their dog from, like 200 yards away, whatever. And they had an e-collar remote in their hand. Okay. And then there was a clip right after that one of some positive-only trainer doing a recall from 200 yards away with their dog. Like, you can get the same results without the e-collar, train humanely, this, that, blah, blah. And the interesting thing to me is in both of those videos, the recall that they were doing with the dog from 200 yards away was in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing going, like huge open field, no other people, no other dogs, no other distractions. So let me just, because I was asked it, as I ever said, this might be a interesting conversation because this particular positive-only trainer has been essentially posting all these bashing things on, whatever, e-collar trainers, this, that.
Yeah.
To both of them. Listen, to both of you that made that video, right? There's no distractions.
Yeah, for sure.
Of course you could train it that way in a positive fashion without any distractions, right? And listen, you could probably proof it pretty damn well also with some distractions without an e-collar there. But fact of the matter, plain and simple, the reason we use e-collars, the reason we condition e-collars is because there are competing motivators out there. And at some point, you will encounter something, whether it's a deer that randomly appears out of nowhere when your dog's mid-recall from 200 yards away, or a squirrel, or another dog, or whatever, some giant 17-foot tall walking stake that walks out of the woods that your dog wants to go over and bite.
Yeah.
That if you encounter that situation and you're working on those types of things off leash in an environment, when you do not have a way to tell the dog that thing you want more than coming to me right now, you can't go to, you are setting yourself up for failure. I've told these stories many times before, but there are 2 particular things that stick out off the top of my head as far as encounters I ran into. Now, I would consider Vinny and Vera both extremely food motivated and extremely toy or ball motivated. Like these dogs will basically do anything on the face of the planet for toys or balls. Yeah. Right. With Vera, when I first started training her, I remember I was going off leash in the woods. I'm on a hike with her and same deal. Nothing around. It looked like this video or, big open area, whatever. And everything was fine. It was no big deal. I did have an e-collar on her, but a deer just appeared out of nowhere, like 20 feet away from us. And it was a big-ass buck, man. And I remember she looked at this deer, and she took off like a freaking rocket after this, like to the point where in like 3 seconds, I could not even see her anymore. Like she was gone. Okay. E-collar. Zoop. It was one of these, right? It was, no, zoop, tap, 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 right? I heard, right? Came flying back to me, right? And to this day, I don't think she's ever done that ever again. Yeah. Right? Now, people look at me, oh my God, you fried her on 100 feet. How? That's so inhumane. You're right? Here's the thing, right? Your dog has to understand for safety reasons they can't do that. Yeah. They have to understand that in a situation like that, if they do something like that, it's gonna suck. Yeah. Caveat. If you are going to be doing off-leash stuff with your dog, right? And to this trainer that's posting, look, I can get that same reliability. Bet you anything in that same scenario. If a deer appears 5 feet away from your dog it's probably not going to go as well as you would like.
No.
Right? Second scenario, I'm with Vinny. We're in Tremont. We're playing Chuck It, right? Same deal. Super driven for this ball. He's chasing it. He's having a good time. This dog is never in his life, he's probably 2 years old at this point, never in his life taken off after anything, right? For whatever reason, that was the day. We're in Lincoln Park. You know Lincoln Park. I mean, it's surrounded by somewhat busy roads and stuff, you know, but it's a big field. There's plenty of space. For whatever reason, saw a squirrel. That was the day. He was going for it. Same deal. Drops the ball, turns around, pew, off for that squirrel. Same deal. E-collar all the way up. No. Bam. Same deal. Jumped, came running back to me. We finished playing our ball. Obviously, he rebounded pretty quickly from it because he's not like... He doesn't shut down very easily or anything like that. Same deal. I don't know if I've ever run into that situation again with him. Yeah. Right? So again, competing motivators are a real thing, right? You can't compare dogs and zoo training and all this kind of stuff to dog training and positive reinforcement and all that because we don't have control over the environment around us. And if we want to live the best possible lives with our dogs, which is allowing them to be able to explore and you know, run and play and be off leash and go for hikes and this and that without needing them tethered to us from 6 feet away at all times, you have to make sure you have the ability to stop those things. Because I do not believe that you will ever be able to achieve that level of reliability without it. So that's all I have to say about that video. A lot of people talk about that. And then this is another point I was thinking about the other day. You know, we talk a lot about getting your dogs to different environments and making sure they're going to be reliable and you know, giving them, you know, a fulfilled life through environmental socialization and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I genuinely feel like, you know, because I feel like a counter argument to everything I said just now is, well, you know, you should only let your dog off leash in contained areas then, or you should always have your dog on a long line or this or that. It's like, okay, cool. Well, like how long of a long line are you about to buy? What, 30 feet, 50 feet, right? Like I've seen 50 feet long lines before that first off are the biggest pain in the ass in the world to get, right? But here's the thing. I think that you look at animals and you look at what they're designed for, which is physical exercise, high energy, things like that. If you're not providing your dog a place where they could truly open up and run and let that energy out and stuff like that, they're going to be constantly on edge and wired up and wound up and anticipating doing something like that at all times. So that the second that they get loose from your house or this or that, you're making the chances of them darting so much higher. So by training them to that level and allowing them to be able to do that, I think you're really allowing them to rehearse this kind of this drive and this kind of physical nature that they have in a very healthy outlet, right? And you're going to help keep them much calmer overall because of it. Yeah. So that's all I have to say about that one. That was the first message that I got from somebody here. Yeah. So we'll burn through these next couple questions here. So next one is from Rochelle. She asks, how much should I be feeding my dog? He weighs 75 pounds. She feeds him 3 cups of food twice a day. Well, as far as how much you should feed your dog, that is solely based on the dog. So we'll get into the facts here real quick because we talked about this a lot. Yeah. Keep in mind, dog food bags are not accurate. They don't go off of breed of the dog. They don't go off activity level of the dog. They don't go off age of the dog. They don't factor in how fast of a metabolism the dog has. So I never go off the bag. In addition to that, the dog food companies want to sell more dog food. So they are going to put significantly more on the bag than it probably should be. So what do? You got to eyeball it. You got to first and foremost make sure that the dog is eating everything that you put down for them. If they're leaving food in their bowl after you feed them, that is a telltale sign that you're feeding them too much. So first thing you would do is if your dog has food left over in their bowl every mealtime, you're going to begin by every week cutting back 1/4 of a cup until the dog is consistently eating everything in that bowl. Right? And likely what you're going to see is you're going to start seeing a rapid weight loss because they're not consuming as many calories because probably they're a little bit overweight to begin with, right? Once you hit that point where they're eating everything in the bowl, then you start adjusting based on the looks of the dog, right? If they're eating everything, that means we're maintaining food drive, which is very healthy for them, obviously. From there, you look at, are they gaining too much weight? If they are, you cut it back further. Are they losing too much weight? Then you go up a little bit to stabilize. Just like with people. If you're trying to gain weight, you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to maintain weight. You got to determine what stage is the dog in. But the first step is making sure they're eating everything that's put in front of them. Keep in mind, dogs are not picky. That doesn't exist. Everybody says, I got a picky dog. As my dog's gotten older, they've gotten picky. No, as your dog's gotten older, they haven't gotten picky. Their metabolism has slowed down, which means they need less food than they did when they were 2 years old, which means that you're overfeeding your dog.
Yep. Easy.
So go off the dog, Rochelle. Don't go off of any sort of anything that anybody tells you. A good rule of thumb, if you have a dog that's free feeding right now and you're trying to adjust that, this is what we do with some of the board and trains that come in if we're trying to get them on a more consistent feeding schedule, is for the initial first week that you are adjusting their feeding, assuming they're free fed and they're a little bit overweight and stuff. Usually what I'll do is I'll do a cup and a half a day. So 3/4 cup in the morning, 3/4 cup in the evening. And I'll do that for 7 days and I'll see where I'm at with things. And this is assuming the dog is like, say, 55 to 60 pounds or over. If the dog is under 50 pounds, I do 1 cup a day. If the dog is under like 30 pounds, I do half a cup a day. Right? And you go off of that. And again, you start to balance it out because the first step is get them consistently eating everything in front of them. Next one. Rach Kotz. How do you re-socialize a dog that has been previously attacked by another dog? Well, this is a loaded question, but the first thing that you do is you get right back to socializing. So anytime there's a big incident, whether you're out on a walk, you get chased by an off-leash dog, this, that, the best way to create any sort of trauma and long-term effects with that kind of stuff is for you to alter what you're doing. A lot of people will start coddling to the dog. They'll start avoiding doing certain things with the dog. What you do is you draw attention to the fact that something bad just happened, which makes the dog dwell on that. Right? Best thing you can do is immediately start re-socializing them. While immediately re-socializing them, though, you should be asking yourself, am I socializing them in proper ways? Don't take them to random daycares. Don't take them to dog parks. Don't do on-leash greetings. Those are... Hang on. I got to write those down. Don't do dog parks, daycares, on-leash greetings. We're gonna make a little text thing on this later.
Do's and don'ts.
It's a good one. Do's and don'ts. Do play dates with friends' dogs you know and trust. Hang on. So do play dates with friends' dogs you know and trust. Now, this would mean making sure that the friend is on the same page as making sure, you're doing the socialization properly. You're not having resources out, food, toys, affection, right? Yep. Do find a structured doggy daycare that is ran by a training company, a balanced training company, because they're going to be able to advocate and communicate to the dogs very effectively to make sure it stays safe.
I mean, not the squirt bottles?
Listen, I got nothing against squirt bottles. They're effective with some dogs.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I think there's better ways to do it, though.
Well, yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Structured daycares ran by trainers. And honestly, that's really about it. You don't need to be doing a lot of additional socialization. So, add another don't do. So don't have resources out. Food, toys, affection. So you should start doing it right away, though. Start re-socializing your dog immediately. Make sure you don't have resources out. Make sure you don't do dog parks. You don't do daycares. You don't do on-leash greetings. Make sure that you have play dates with friends you know and trust where you're not interacting with the dogs. You're just supervising. Structured daycares ran by a trainer. Or the other third one for the do. End on a short, positive note. Now, what I mean by that, a lot of people like to take their dogs to their friend's house where they're going to hang out, and they'll be there for like 5 hours. And what happens is for that first hour, you're watching the dogs, you're making sure everything's going well and stuff like that. And then guess what happens after about 2 hours? Everybody's hanging out, having a good time. Nobody knows where the dogs are. Somebody drops a hot dog on the ground. The dogs are eating it. They get in a fight over it. Turns into mess. Nobody saw what happened. And then you're like, there's a big mess going on right now.
Yeah.
Don't run into that situation. And on a positive note, I usually like to keep initial socials an hour or less.
Ooh.
All right. Next one from Dr. Amy. Dr. Amy asks how to help your dog transition during a move to a new home and environment. It's another good one we talk about a lot, and we've talked about this with the Raising Puppy book, right? So what I like to do is for that first week or two, I treat that initial move as if the dog were a puppy again, which means I eliminate their freedom to be able to go explore other rooms on their own and stuff, because they're probably going to find a place that they want to mark or go to the bathroom or this or that. I keep everything 100% supervised. I go back to using a crate at nighttime as well as when I'm not home for at least a couple of weeks while I reestablish my rules and boundaries in the house. I make sure my dog has an e-collar on all the time when I'm in the house for the first couple of weeks, so I could set new boundaries if I want them to stay out of certain rooms. I want them to not be on the furniture. I want them to not bark at the new sounds and noises out the window. And I make sure that I establish things and put the dog through like a mini 1 to 2 week long little boot camp in the house. If you do that, it sounds tedious, but that's going to be your best chance of success with those things. There's 3 rapid fire ones.
Rapid fire.
All right, further piecing through this podcast here. We are now past our rapid fire question section, and we will now be moving into our next chapter of The Art of Raising a Puppy, so we can keep burning through this book. And I kind of like this like one chapter at a time, you know,
I like that.
little thing.
It's just enough tidbits of information.
Just enough information where you get a little taste. So this one is called The Foundations of Training. So where we left off last time, we were kind of getting into some initial training related things, and I believe we were talking about, what were we talking about? Potty training. That was it, setting up the schedule for potty training. So this one is the foundations of training. So we're going to get going here.
Here we go.
The first months of puppy rearing pass so quickly that before you know it, your puppy is practically full grown. From adoption to 6 months of age, your pup will grow to 3/4 of his adult size and pass through a series of developmental stages that will have a strong effect on his future behavior. Do not let this growth catch you off guard. Understanding how this period of development unfolds will allow you to anticipate your pup's behavior and plan effective training methods. You must learn to harmonize your handling of your pup with the particular stage of growth he has reached, thus giving him the best chance of maturing into a happy, well-adjusted companion. The socialization period concludes. As we have seen, most people adopt their puppies between 7 to 10 weeks in the middle of the socialization period. Because of this timing, new owners often notice their pups manifesting fear and avoidance shortly after being brought home, usually in connection with new experiences. This fear avoidance period, 8 to 10 weeks, is a normal part of socialization and is indirectly responsible for puppies bonding quickly with new owners. A puppy who experiences this touch of insecurity tends to seek the presence and security of his owner. He gladly follows you around and stays by your side. Through this close contact, the puppy's self-confidence grows steadily, so that when he enters the final 2 weeks of the socialization period, 10 to 12 weeks, he acts like a little adult. This is a particularly enjoyable time to spend with your pup. He learns quickly, yet still looks upon you as the central figure in his life. Occasions of fearfulness are infrequent. Even though the pup appears to be well adjusted, it is important not to adopt a careless, laissez-faire. I don't know some of these words. My vocabulary isn't great because I pursued music for too long as opposed to studying. Attitude with him. Within the parameters of safety, you should continue intensive socializing. Invite friends and neighbors to your house to meet your puppy. Be sure to plan these encounters ahead of time so that your friends will know what to do. A good practice is to set up a greeting routine that your pup will quickly become accustomed to. When the doorbell rings, bring your puppy to the door on a leash so that he is under control. After you open the door and greet your friends, have a person crouch down to meet your puppy, praising him in a pleasant voice. It is much easier for pups to approach a crouching figure than a person who is towering over them. Make sure your guest makes no sudden movements towards the pup that could be frightening. Also, take the puppy on short car rides around your neighborhood to get him accustomed to the car. Use a portable crate or have a friend sit in the back seat with him, and keep the trips short enough so that he does not get sick. If you follow up each excursion with praise and a session of play, he will learn to associate the car with a pleasant experience. Pups who are conditioned to riding in the car early in life become quite comfortable as adults and rarely have difficulties with motion sickness. If you could walk him safely, remember, until your pup is fully immunized, you must be careful about exposing him to other dogs in areas where animals defecate. Let him explore the area around your house while on leash, and take him to meet people in the neighborhood, especially children. We cannot overemphasize the importance of socialization. Providing your pup with as many new experiences as possible should be a major priority for you at this time in his life. This also includes conditioning to a wide variety of common household appliances: electric blender, dishwasher, garage door opener, waste disposal system, and vacuum cleaner. Keep the initial exposures gentle, switching on the appliance when your pup is well away from it and letting him make a gradual approach. Do not force or drag him. Instead, let your pup get accustomed to the noise and movement in his own time. These daily episodes of socializing build his confidence and foster a healthy attitude towards life. Also, if you have not already started to teach your pup basic obedience exercises, now is the time. Although a puppy at this age has a short attention span and requires plenty of practice, he is quite capable of learning and will benefit from short training sessions that are kept positive and non-punitive. The above holds true for city pups as well, though it is easy to imagine how socializing a puppy under these circumstances can be a real challenge. Since urban apartment dwellers most likely will not be walking their puppies in public until at least 16 weeks of age, they must provide safe alternative social experiences. Why 16 weeks? Because many city veterinarians worry of the risks of allowing puppies to interact before they have completed their full cycle of vaccinations. The primary concern is canine parvo, a potentially lethal disease that is contracted when an unprotected puppy comes in contact with infected feces or with other contaminated organic materials such as soil, where the virus can survive for more than a year. With the high population of dogs in our cities, the parvovirus threat on the street is very real. An even greater risk, however, is that of an under-socialized pup being euthanized or surrendered because he exhibits serious behavioral problems related to lack of socializing. Since the critical socialization period ends at 14 weeks, it is vital that newly adopted puppies are thoroughly socialized from the day they come into your life. Quite literally, their lives may depend on it.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, for the most part.
Yeah.
I think when you have a young dog, they should be interacting with as many new things as possible. I think the emphasis still should be on the environmental socialization and getting them to as many new places as possible. Obviously, see, this is the conversation where I had a conversation with a client yesterday about, making sure the dog is fully vaccinated before this and that. And this person was telling me they have a dog that's seriously starting to bite them already, right?
Yeah.
Like breaking skin, this, that, big time issues. And the vet told him, you have to wait until the dog has its rabies shot before you start any sort of training with the dog. And that's going to be another month and a half out for this dog.
Yeah.
Right. And I was telling them, I was like, listen, I'm not trying to go against what your vet is saying. I'm not trying to be like, I understand the risks. I understand why they say these things. Right. But you got to get this under control right away.
Yeah.
Or this is going to turn into a big problem later on. And here's the thing. The potential that your dog is going to contract something is there, but it's fairly minimal.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you take your dog into a public area and immediately they're going to get it. You have to run the risk of another dog actually has it, that it can be contracted.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So, again, I understand and I get it, but there are certain situations where it's very important to get this stuff under control right away. Now, I think there are some dogs you could look at that are pretty bomb-proof as far as their temperament, where you can get away with waiting and it not be a big deal, and you start that socialization a little bit later and it's not quite as big of a deal. But if you start noticing your dog has a less stable temperament and is having issues socially and stuff like that, man, I would get on it right away.
Yeah, just get it on it,
get it out of the way, and here's the thing, if something happens, don't hold it to me, right? Whatever.
Yeah.
This is just my opinion here, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with what he said here, where the risks are much higher if you have an under-socialized puppy and then you got issues,
Yeah. I mean, even that month and a half, that's a month and a half that you're going to have to rework through what the puppy has already learned.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, they're also talking until 14 weeks you should be doing all this, which is why I said I agree, right? I agree in those early stages, get your dog exposed to all this kind of stuff, where I think it turns into a problem, and we'll see as we get a little further into this chapter here. As the dog gets older and gets more into maturity and stuff like that, you don't want to be doing that much socialization with them.
Yeah.
Right? Because at that point, the dog is more of an adult. They're not like taking in these individual situations and like learning and stuff like that. Like they're becoming more confident. They're learning they can push back on things. They're learning they can control situations. And that's where you're going to start to see that if you overdo it, they're going to become too pushy and too confident and start displaying unwanted behaviors.
Yeah.
So where are we? All right. Fortunately, city owners are not without viable options to safely accomplish this. For clients living in apartments without private yards, we recommend several procedures to ensure proper socialization without jeopardizing a puppy's health. As part of your daily routine, take your pup on walks around the neighborhood using a large tote bag in which the pup can be comfortably carried. Small and medium-sized breeds have no difficulty fitting in these kinds of carryalls throughout the puppyhood, and large breeds can easily carried until they are between 10 and 12 weeks of age. Toting your pup around prevents him from coming into contact with urine and feces while also exposing him to the sights and sounds of city life. Urban puppies have to get used to honking horns, jackhammers, sirens, and busy traffic, as well as to large crowds of people walking along sidewalks. Often, if an owner is sitting with a puppy on a park bench, people will ask to meet or pet the pup. These experiences will provide your dog with controlled exposure to the world and will nurture his normal development. Now again, caveating this with until the dog is like 10 to 12 weeks of age. Yeah. At that point, you need to stop doing those things. And I understand they're putting this in here for the safety side of things, which I completely get and I'm empathetic to, but I have to stress you cannot do that long term.
Yeah.
Another safe socializing exercise for pups in cities involves using the lobby area of your apartment building for random encounters with all sorts of people. With your pup on a leash, you could walk him around the lobby, letting him investigate and mingle naturally with the whole environment. Simply offering your pup the opportunity to see people coming in and out of the building has a very beneficial effect. If people come over to greet or admire your dog, introduce your puppy to them, taking care not to allow him to jump up. After the adjustment of the first several days, you can invite friends and relatives over to meet your puppy. This step is extremely important if a large number of your pup's social experiences prior to 16 weeks of age will occur in your apartment. Finally, puppy classes are widely available for socialization purposes. Although the safety of these has been called into question, some veterinarians caution their clients not to participate until their pup's vaccinations are completed. In a roundtable discussion sponsored by the American Veterinarian Society of Animal Behavior and printed in December 2009 issue of Veterinarian Medicine, 4 veterinarians with expertise in animal behavior weighed in on the risks versus the benefits of puppy classes. Without exception, each of these experts underscored the importance of early socializing in puppy development, the minimal safety risks associated with attending puppy classes before the full cycle of vaccinations has been completed, and the absolute benefits to puppies in participating. The veterinarians believe that getting puppies properly socialized was paramount, even with the potential health risks of puppy classes. They discussed the safety protocols that most puppy classes have in place, such as requiring vaccinations appropriate for the age of each puppy, health certificates, and good hygiene, and not allowing ill puppies to attend class. And they reported the few, if any, instances of serious sickness they had witnessed as a result of puppy classes. They also encouraged socialization dates in safe areas with adult dogs who are known to be healthy and who are friendly with puppies, as well as car rides that can expose pups to a broad number of sights and sounds. The experts discouraged visiting dog parks and walking on sidewalks until a pup's vaccinations are completed at 16 weeks of age. So basically what they're saying is you have to socialize your dog.
Yeah.
Just don't be an idiot about it.
Yes.
Right? Do it in controlled, safe ways.
Yep.
Dogs you know and trust was the last thing we just said right on there.
Yeah.
Always do it with dogs you know and trust. Next, the juvenile period, 12 weeks to sexual maturity. The juvenile period of development corresponds to that time in the wild when wolf puppies make their first excursions away from the nest area, showing a new curiosity about their surrounding environment. They become increasingly independent, and existing behavior patterns are refined as the pups grow in strength and skill. Prior to this, the pups have stayed within 20 yards of the nest, and their primary focus has been their mother. Now that changes. The nest is abandoned, and the pups are taken to rendezvous sites, where they will while the pack is hunting elsewhere. At these sites, which can be as large as half acre, they become adventuresome and begin learning how to hunt, practicing on field mice and other small animals. Their running skills improve steadily, and their gait progression from awkward bunny hopping to a smoother, more coordinated trot. This results in greater stamina and higher activity levels. Social behavior also matures. By 14 weeks, the dominance order of the litter is fixed, and the pups have developed a keen sense of their rank and status within the pack. Over the following months, their prominent teeth will come in, and they will be introduced gradually to adult life, hunting with the pack around 10 months of age, when their bodies have grown strong enough. These same behavioral changes occur in the life of your puppy, though they can make for trying times in a domestic context. Many owners are quite unprepared for the challenge of these months. When puppy behavior fluctuates dramatically, beginning at 13 weeks, a pup will show more pronounced expressions of independence. The dog will only last week was your shadow, who seemed well on his way to being trained, now begins to ignore you when you call, and during training and play sessions you have to work extra hard to keep his attention. His rapid growth produces a corresponding increase in activity, which makes him highly excitable and difficult to manage. While he does need plenty of exercise, for most owners this translates into walks with lots of pulling and lunging. Bad habits develop quickly. When guests come to the house, the juvenile pup turns into a juvenile delinquent, jumping up and making himself a pest, continually demanding attention. It is also common for pups of this age to become very mouthy, so that by the teething period, 4 to 6 months, they are chewing on everything, people included. To top things off, your puppy will probably go through a second fear period, when his behavior will swing from being independent and bratty, 12 to 14 weeks, to periodically cautious and fearful, 16 to 24 weeks. Even of things with which he had formerly been comfortable. Patience is not sufficient to get through these months. Now more than ever, your pup needs the guiding, stabilizing presence of a competent and understanding pack leader. Take on an active role in this process. Preliminary training, appropriate discipline, and reassuring attitude are all key elements in helping your pup through this challenging period of his life. Perhaps the biggest mistake you can make with your pup is to put off this early training under the mistaken assumption that training should occur after 6 months. This common misunderstanding is responsible for all sorts of unnecessary behavior problems. When owners fail to begin puppy training as soon as they adopt their pup, the dog begins to train himself. After several months of the pup doing as he pleases, untraining will most likely involve sterner techniques that, while effective, could have been avoided had puppy training begun immediately. To illustrate this, we bring you the case of Rory. Okay, so that chapter right there, the juvenile period, that's going to be a clip. And we're about to talk about that for a minute here.
Good.
So that is like the most important part of like all of this.
Yeah.
Is we talk about, I have this conversation with friends that get puppies. I have this conversation with clients where everybody calls me and they're just like, listen, this puppy, it's a fucking cakewalk. It's easy. I got him trained already. That's what they say. They call me 12 weeks, 14. I've got him trained already. Right?
Yeah.
You don't have him trained. Your puppy is just still a freaking puppy. And what do I always tell them? I tell them, you just wait until the world starts becoming more interesting to your puppy, right? And that could be more interesting in an exciting fashion or a scary fashion, but that dog will push back on you at some point. And if you address that pushback the second it happens, guess what happens? The dog tries it one time. They're like, nope, didn't work.
Yep.
And you're past it, right? And if you start training right away, you could understand how to implement training to stop those things in as simple and easy and non-confrontational of a way as possible, right? But if you wait, that's where, like he said, the dog starts training themselves. And what does that mean? That means that the dog starts learning what they can get away with, when they can get away with it, what they can do to elicit different responses out of their owner, what they can do to elicit different responses out of guests, whether it's when they want something or want something to stop or whatever it may be. And they start learning through the world what they can do. And I talked about this in the Aggressive Dog Handbook, where I said, every interaction with your dog is training. And it's up to you to determine if you're the one that's leveraging that or the dog's the one that's leveraging that.
Yep.
And that's what they're talking about in this.
I mean, think of a 4-year-old child versus a 13-year-old, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot more rebellion, and that's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
your dog's basically going through puberty.
100%. All right. Let's see what they have to say about Rory. A 6-month-old German Shepherd puppy lunged through our gift shop doors with his owner in tow. A young graduate student desperately begging the rambunctious pup to heel. As she pulled the leash back and forth in an attempt to restrain him, the puppy forged around the room, excitedly sniffing the carpet and furniture. When the student finally managed to get the pup under control and collect herself, she nervously looked up at the attending monk and said, "Hello, I have an appointment to bring my pup, Rory, for training." When she had first contacted us by phone, the woman had described the bind she was in. She had unexpectedly received an important grant to study in Europe for 2 months, which left her no choice but to board Rory during that time. Since Rory had not yet received any training, the woman was looking for a kenneling program that could do 2 things: board Rory and train him in a kindly, gentle way. She confessed that the idea of training made her very wary, but she also admitted that she was having real problems controlling Rory. Among other things, he was becoming highly destructive. In response, we outlined the services we could offer, and we were frank about what would be involved in training him. It appeared from her description that despite his basically friendly nature, Rory was spoiled and used to getting his own way. He was the boss in their relationship, and if a real change was to take place in his behavior, we would have to learn to become a follower. In all likelihood, this would mean firm yet fair discipline, particularly early on. This response made her nervous. She did not like the idea of training Rory by force. We explained that it was she who had inadvertently made that choice by delaying the process until now. By allowing Rory to grow up without proper direction and leadership, she had made training a more difficult proposition. She said that this had never occurred to her and that she was under the impression training should not begin before 6 months of age. We then explained why this was not true. Finally, almost reluctantly, she agreed to bring Rory to us.
I love these guys.
They're great. They're having a seminar somewhat soon that I think I'm going to go to.
Yeah.
I haven't been to a dog training seminar in a very long time.
I was going to say, it had to be a while.
It's been a while, and I gotta figure out when it is. It's the Monks and then Mark Goldberg from Chicago.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be I think I'm going to try to go to it. I might take some of the staff. We'll see.
Yeah.
As the monk greeted owner and pup, Rory playfully tried to jump up several times, and the student had to use all her strength to restrain him. Soft-spoken and polite, she kept pleading, "Stop it, stop it." But Rory seemed completely oblivious to her corrections, merely tugging away at the leash and making hoarse, straining sounds as a result of being pulled. Unable to reach the monk, he wrapped himself around his owner's leg several times, and when she finally managed to free herself, he began to mouth and nip at her hands. Her pleading encouraged him further, until at last he began to bark continuously for attention. The monk finally, what's fun? I've seen this so many times.
It's like exact.
They're trying to jump at me and me ignoring them and not feeding into it. And then they turn to the owner. They're jumping, clawing. Stop. And then they bite. And then they sit there.
Yeah.
And we're sitting there. We can't even have a conversation because it's just chaos.
Yep.
Just pure chaos.
Yep. Exactly.
I've just witnessed this so many times. The monk finally suggested that it might be best to get Rory settled in his kennel area before proceeding with the interview. The woman agreed, but before handing over the leash, she said, "Wait just a few seconds." Crouching down to gather Rory to herself, she anxiously began hugging and kissing him goodbye. The emotional farewell proved too much for the young puppy. Overwhelmed by the intensity of her affections, Rory squatted helplessly and let go with a minor flood, making the student groan in frustration. Oh, Rory. The scene could not have been more predictable.
Minor flooding.
When the monk returned from placing the pup in the kennel, the student was in tears. She looked up and remarked awkwardly, "I know that all this must seem rather silly, but I feel absolutely distressed about leaving him. We're very attached, and the thought of leaving him for training, well, please tell me, is the training going to break his spirit?" It's like I had a conversation just the other day. I was on the phone with somebody. They're like, 4 weeks. I was talking about the board and train. They're like, how is my dog going to cope with being away from me for 4 weeks? And they were like saying it like that, very emotional with it. And all I said, I was on the phone. I was like, typically better than the owners do.
Yeah. After 2 days, they won't even care.
In response, the monk walked over to the window and pointed to the front yard, where one of his confreres happened to be working with a 7-month-old Labrador Retriever who was just completing a 3-week training course. The two walked harmoniously around the yard, their pace and rhythm so measured that their movements seemed choreographed, like a ballet. The unhesitating attentiveness, wagging tail, fixed eye contact, and perfect pace of the dog were utterly captivating. His responses to the obedience commands were precise, yet not mechanical, and the monk's soft, encouraging praise brought out energy and enthusiasm in the dog's work. The student watched silently for 10 minutes. When the session ended, the monk beside her said, 3 weeks ago, she was just like Rory. Now look at her. That is spirit.
Ooh. Dang. Ooh. That was, oh man. He's like, I got it right here.
I do like these guys.
Yeah.
I like them
that
a lot.
That was
Listen, I talk a
smooth.
lot about what I look like. People ask me all the time, where do I get my continuous education from still? And I would say less of it has to do with the training, right? It has to do with the articulation of the training, right? And when you read things like this, you understand like these people know how to get a message across.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I really like about
That guy
this.
hook, line, synced right there. Oh, that was a quote.
What is training? Rory arrived at New Skeet unruly and dominant, unresponsive to the leash, and unable to focus on anything for more than several seconds. His owner had raised him with the mistaken notion that obedience training should not begin until 6 months of age, if at all. The result was a puppy out of control and impossible to live with. As we suspected, during Rory's first training session with us, he initially tried to dominate his trainer, fighting the leash and bolting in different directions. Had the graduate student witnessed this first session, she might have frantically rescued Rory from the kennel and sped off, convinced that the monks were too unsympathetic. We've run into that plenty of times, too.
Oh yeah.
No doubt she would have been upset by the absence of any coddling and the firm, uncompromising leash corrections Roy received in his first lesson. She likely would have been disturbed by the physical correction his trainer used to discourage his initial attempts at dominance. What she would not have imagined, however, would be the rapid transformation that would occur over the following weeks as Rory changed from a willful, spoiled, stubborn puppy into a calmer, obedient dog. When she returned to pick up Rory, she stared in disbelief as he moved flawlessly through his paces, happy and attentive. After the demonstration, she turned to the monks next to her and exclaimed in an astonished voice, "That's not my dog." Happily, Rory responded to the training, commendably, and the student was able to get a new insight into the value of a properly trained dog. Nevertheless, the whole process could have been so much simpler. By no means does obedience training have to be harsh or disagreeable. Much of the challenge of Rory's first sessions could have been avoided had his owner understood that training is much more than a formal set of exercises dog learns once he reaches a certain age. 6 months is a reasonable time to commence formal obedience training with regular daily sessions. However, this will have its greatest value only when it flows naturally from a basic foundation of socializing, puppy conditioning, preliminary obedience exercises, and play that begins early in puppyhood. All of these factors naturally dispose a puppy to accept the human leadership so necessary for more advanced training. Make no mistake about it, training is never just optional. If you have a new puppy, she will be trained one way or another, either into an unruly, dominant, spoiled dog with real possibilities for serious problem behaviors, or into a companion who is friendly, well-managed, and obedient. It all depends on you. Had Rory been raised with this type of understanding, his formal training would have begun with much less compulsion and discipline, since it would have flowed naturally from a healthy leader-follower relationship. As we explained in How to Be Your Dog's Best Friend, we understand training is a dynamic process that begins at the puppy's birth and continues throughout her life. It enables a puppy to reach her full potential as a dog and companion in a manner completely in harmony with her canine nature. Training is educating. Significantly, the word education comes from the Latin educare, which means to draw out, to call forth what is already present as a possibility. Applied to your dog, this concept is not limited to the mastering of 5 basic commands. It is an ongoing process. We have seen this holistic understanding of puppy development borne out in watching litter after litter grow and learn, conscious of our own role in that process. From the perspective of theory and experience, we view training as a way of relating to the dog that involves a person's whole life with it, not simply 10-minute sessions in the morning or evening. Many new owners fail to perceive that their puppy begins her training the day she arrives home, not 3 to 4 months later, when she reaches that magical age of 6 months. She is not in a state of suspended animation until then. Rather, your puppy is reacting, responding, learning, and forming habits, if only by default.
Is that a picture of Rory?
No, that's not Roy. It's just a pup. All right. Next section. Me, a trainer. This is all the same chapter still. Since your dog is always learning, for better or for worse, it is to your advantage as an owner to give direction to the training process in a manner that enhances your life together. Only by taking a deliberate, active role in training your pup will you have the opportunity to develop a smooth and enjoyable relationship. However, let us emphasize that you must do this with sensitivity, intelligence, and thoughtfulness. All the good intentions in the world are of little value if the way you treat your pup is unsuited to his immature stage of development.
Ooh, that is a good lick there.
A young puppy's emotional system and physical structure have not matured enough to handle the stress brought on by less than thoughtful, compulsory obedience training. For example, some dog owners, knowing they must be the boss in their puppy's eyes, go to the exact opposite extreme of Rory's owner. They make the mistake of being overbearing, misusing dominance in a heavy-handed, stressful way. When the puppy errs, these owners deal with it severely, convinced that punishment is the best way for him to learn. This approach can result in a pup who is passively submissive and fearful, lacking any self-confidence. A more patient, guiding, and correcting approach to training, one stressing encouragement and praise, is much more effective in preparing a puppy for a future of companionship and learning. Remember, a pup must develop confidence in adolescence. You know what's interesting with that is there's a couple trainers around the Cleveland area that do board and train programs with like 10-week-old dogs, 12-week-old dogs, like 2-week programs where it's like e-collar training, prong collar training, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I've just seen time and time again dogs who have done those programs who then at 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months start having big time issues because of that. Right?
Yeah.
Too much pressure and expectation put on the dog right away.
Yeah.
Too much emphasis on corrections as opposed to teaching the dog to understand and learn through some of these situations. Not enough emphasis on socialization or confidence building and stuff. And having it all sandwiched into such a tight timeline,
Yeah.
can create big time problems later on.
Yeah.
I've never understood. Like I said, there's one in particular I know of that has done those for a long time, that we've seen multiple dogs come out of it and just problem after problem.
Yeah. It's just such a fine balance at that point in the dog's life.
Yeah. Again, you want to fight those fights, but in a gentle fashion.
Yeah.
When you put too much expectation on the end product in such a short timeline, you don't allow the learning to take place organically, right?
Yeah.
You're just forcing them into things.
Yeah. You need a learning curve, a slight learning curve up.
Yeah. Puppy training, therefore, is different in tone from traditional formal obedience training. Very young puppies, 7 to 10 weeks, have no innate impressions of training. Their slates are basically clean, possessing brain waves already at adult levels. Pups lack only experience. This is the ideal time for them to acquire positive attitudes about life and about training, since there are no bad habits to undo. In puppy training, we are less concerned with demanding precise responses to obedience commands than with nurturing basic character traits: respect for leadership, attentiveness, curiosity, playfulness, and an enthusiastic attitude towards your relationship. That's literally what we just said.
Yep.
Is, again, puppy training. I'm going to read that one more time. Puppy training, we are less concerned with demanding precise responses to obedience commands than with nurturing basic characteristic traits: respect for leadership, attentiveness, curiosity, playfulness, and an enthusiastic attitude towards your relationship. The emphasis here is on fun. Puppies learn best in the context of play, just as young wolves and young humans do. By keeping the focus of early sessions positive and pleasant with lots of play, you can lay a solid behavioral foundation that will prepare your puppy for advanced training later on and will serve him throughout his life. You'll be amazed at how easily formal obedience and advanced training follow from a program of interesting and fun puppy training, in which you exercise your leadership in a manner that stimulates your puppy's growth. With young dogs, our goal is to build a strong work ethic,
Yep.
not to have everything perfect. Right? So Yes, let's make the process engaging. Let's make sure they understand we are leaders, and if there are behavioral issues we need to stop, we're going to stop them still. But don't focus on the precision and the accountability behind the precision and the things that don't matter as much. Build the work ethic for them to want to learn, or at least understand the learning process.
Yeah.
So later on you could hold it to a higher standard.
Yeah. You're gently shaping the foundation for that in the future.
Being a leader. All dogs need discerning leadership. Remember, in the wild, they will function as pack animals who are very sensitive to social hierarchy. They discover their place in the pack naturally and learn to respect leadership. This is a primary reason dogs have been so successful from an evolutionary point of view. On the domestic front, the dynamic remains the same. Only now your household is the pack, and you must assume the role of leader. Be sure of one thing. If your pup does not learn to perceive you in this way, she will assume the role herself and try to lead you. Don't take it personally. It's simply part of her nature. Power vacuum.
Tying it in.
Wow. It's true. If there is no leader present in a household, group of friends, whatever, someone's going to fill that role.
Yep.
It might just be your little puppy.
Don't.
We had a puppy to lead the band.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Vinny's the leader of the pack
Hell
in this
yeah.
band.
She'll rise as high as she can in the pack. If you don't assert your leadership clearly and consistently, before you know it, your pup will have you fetching the slippers, so to speak. She'll be in control, and you'll be frustrated. Part of being a benevolent leader is learning the characteristics of good training. Patience, fairness, consistency, attentiveness, and intelligence. Good trainers might occasionally feel impatient with a dog, but they always do their best to avoid showing it. They take a long view of the training process and don't try to do too much too quickly, building methodically, one step at a time. They keep their anger in check when things aren't going as planned and realize that a calm and quiet approach, vis-a-vis, there's a lot of French words in here, I believe.
Yeah, I think these are French words.
Their pup is more helpful. With that sort of self-possession, a trainer can be flexible, responding to what the dog needs instead of reacting to mistakes. A lot of fire parts in this.
This is a good chapter.
Yes. With that sort of self-possession, a trainer can be flexible, responding to what the dog needs instead of reacting to mistakes. We see this one a lot. What do? We see the dog make mistakes, and because we're reacting and getting frustrated, we act out in a way that's not appropriate to actually stopping or resolving that problem.
Yep.
Right? As opposed to being able to think out everything that you're doing and maintain calmness and look at a situation and then respond to that situation, right? In a way that's going to solve the problem.
Yep.
Let us be clear here. This doesn't mean being lax. In training, letting the dog ignore known commands or get away with unacceptable behavior is always a formula for future problems. Take the time necessary to be fair and consistent. If you give a command, make sure to enforce it. And use only commands that you know the dog understands and that you can impose. For example, don't try recalling a puppy without some sort of light leash or tether to guide the pup's response. A pup who learns that she doesn't have to come every time you call will return only when she feels like it, which will lead to much frustration and consternation. You can do this, but first you must be aware of how dogs do and do not learn, how they communicate, and which of your own attitudes draw out the best qualities in your dog. We remember one client who came to us for advice regarding his 4-month-old Rottweiler puppy who was starting to growl at strangers. When we went to meet the client and his dog, they were sitting in a bench in our front yard. As we approached, the pup started growling in a low, threatening tone, and the owner quickly tried to reassure him with a soothing voice, saying, "It's okay, boy. It's okay. Good boy. Good boy. Easy." Gently, I think I did a good job of reading that, how it was typed out. I think I do.
Yeah.
Gently rubbing him on his side as he did so. Naturally, the growling only grew worse, and the man looked up helplessly, wondering what to do. Fortunately, we were able to settle the puppy down by taking a short walk with him, and after several minutes, he became a very accepting and friendly. The owner then complained, "I don't understand it. He's such a good pup, and yet has this thing about growling." We explained to the baffled owner that the pup was merely doing what he was told. Reviewing with him his reactions during the incident, we showed him that he was unintentionally rewarding the puppy's growling by his soft praising and petting. The only message the puppy was receiving was, "This is the way to act." Mm-hmm. I always tell everybody, your dog only understands two things: when we like what they're doing or when we don't like what they're doing.
Yep.
Nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot say that this pup was disobedient. Instead, we could see that the owner misunderstood what he was communicating and was ignoring of how to show his true intent in a clear, authoritative way. To obey is to hear. In dog training, most people understand obedience is something the dog does in response to his handler. The dog is the one who is disobedient or not. This is only half true. Obedience comes from the Latin word obvidat. I can't say these words. Which in turn is cognate, to meaning to listen, to hear. By extension, this applies acting on what is heard. Contrary to popular thought, obedience is as much your responsibility as it is your dog's. Even more so, since you are accountable for shaping your pup's behavior to fit your living circumstances. The problem with many owners is that when they fail to listen and to respond to the real needs of their dogs, unknowingly, the owners are disobedient. To be a good companion to your dog, you must be obedient. That is, fully alert and focused on your pup, flexible enough to adapt your approach instantly to his needs. As odd as it may sound, your dog does not know what is best for him. You do, but only by being truly obedient to him. Brother Thomas, who was the driving force behind the training program here at New Skeet until he died in a tragic automobile accident in 1973, had this insight into obedience. Learning the value of silence is learning to listen to, instead of screaming at, reality. Opening your mind enough to find what the end of someone else's sentence sounds like, or listening to a dog until you discover what is needed instead of imposing yourself in the name of training. These monks got a way of saying things, you know?
They got that word speak.
They got that. It's all those silent retreats.
Yeah. Yeah.
What the end of a sentence sounds like. This kind of obedience comes only with time, practice, and study by learning different techniques and methods of training and using them in different circumstances, and if possible, with different types of dogs. Because dogs are individuals, not all respond in the same way to particular training methods. Remember Anka's litter, where we trained Yola in the same way as Sunny. We probably only compound her submissive, shy personality. In education, teachers discover from working with different children that they must be flexible, adapting a variety of teaching methods to individual students. A rigorous, highly structured program that is effective with one child may be disastrous to another. The same is true in dog training. Part of training means that you become a student of your dog and employ an approach that brings out the best in him. In discussing training, we will not present you with one absolute method of teaching your pup. We will try instead to point out some general principles that are important cornerstones for all good training, and then show you how this can be applied to different dogs. This will help you understand and deal with the particular requirements of your own puppy. Working with dogs of all sizes, breeds, temperaments, and personalities, we have learned that limiting yourself to a singular method of training is a serious mistake. Trainers who insist that only one kind of training works, their own, betray their own ignorance and pride, and close themselves off to the real understanding of dogs. One last observation, especially for those of us who have never owned a dog before. Novices often experience feelings of awkwardness and uncertainty at the prospect of training their pup. This can discourage them from even beginning the process. Intimidated by the lack of understanding of techniques and canine behavior, they often fear that their effort will only manifest their own incompetence and lack of coordination while also ruining their puppy. You will be surprised, however, what hidden talents come to the surface if you approach training honestly. Your attitude is what is crucial. Take advantage of the opportunity to learn as much as you can about training and then practice regularly with your pup. Beginning with quick sessions and keeping with his short attention span, then gradually working up to more structured lessons. Get involved with a local obedience club or kindergarten puppy training class in your area for some hands-on experience, and listen to the insights of more accomplished handlers. Do not be afraid to ask serious questions. Good trainers are usually very generous with their knowledge. Their advice and encouragement can give practical support to the different ideas you come across in your study. This last point bears some expansion. While part of the purpose of this book is to provide a reliable roadmap to establish a solid basic foundation with your pup, there's no reason why you cannot benefit from professional help as well. Aside from possessing a wealth of experience, a good trainer can coach and encourage you in ways that are hard to realize when you are working alone. This is true whether you're attending a class or working privately. Over the years, we have had a privilege of meeting many talented trainers, and when you find a good one, it can dramatically impact your relationship with your puppy. However, simply having the title dog trainer next to one's name does not a dog trainer make. Often there's a vast difference between experienced professional who may have certification from a reputable training school or organization, who has attended advanced seminars and conference, who is a member of a trainer's organization such as the International Association of Canine Professionals, the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, or the National Association of Dog Obedience Instructors, and who has apprenticed with some more experienced trainer, and an amateur who may have done none of the above. The collective strengths of the experienced trainer are worth any extra money you may need to pay for his or her services. Take the time to find a trainer whom you feel comfortable with and who has a track record for success in the field. Working with a skilled trainer can be an enriching process for both you and your dog. While it won't lessen your responsibility as an active participant in training, it can make the whole experience more successful and enjoyable. But keep in mind, whether you choose to work with a professional or not, ultimately you will have to stay committed to the training process if you hope to get the dog of your dreams. Most important, never be satisfied with mediocrity. Work hard on bringing out the best in your pup by striving each day to make your training something more alive than the day before. Something more than a mere mastery of techniques. Our culture is obsessed with technique, and technique is essential in training. However, if the training process is to deepen your relationship with your dog, it must be wedded to intuition. The point of practicing regularly and faithfully is not to create a robot. It is to strive towards a level of freedom and understanding with your dog that speaks of true companionship. When that occurs, training reaches the frontiers of art.
It's a beautiful and flowing ending to that chapter.
I love it. It's a solid book, guys.
Yeah.
It's a solid book.
It really is. Dude, that whole section of Rory, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm enjoying burning through this one chapter at a time.
Yeah. Honestly, out of all the books we've went through, I think this is my favorite.
It's tried and true, man. That's why it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. Oh, my God. All right. Well, we're almost 2 hours in.
Yeah.
About to wrap that up.
All right.
Some questions, some music talk, some raising.
Yeah.
A puppy. We got a special guest next week. You guys will see next week when we post. It's going to be, I think, an interesting one.
I'm excited for it.
Be a good one. So we haven't had a guest on in a little while, so that'll be good. And then we got some plans for some more after that.
Yeah.
So podcast is going strong. 27 episodes in. We are just over the halfway mark. We are looking good. So I'm pumped. Obviously, as always, if you guys have any questions about anything, hit us up with them. Email us. Hit us up on the Facebook, on the YouTube. Hit us up anywhere, and we'll get to them.
And if there's anybody you would ever want to see on the podcast,
we'll try to make it happen.
We'll try to make it happen.
No promises.
No, there are no promises. But we are always open for any suggestions.
Yeah. All right, Josh, I'm antsy. Let's wrap this up.
Okay. Josh Dobey Productions on Instagram, joshdobeyproductions.com.
Hit us up on the gram, Miracle Canine Training, or David the Dog Trainer, and YouTube at Miracle Canine Training. Until next time, enjoy